2.5 years ago, I started out in a very new industry that I had absolutely no training, no experience, except a desire. Um, I was thrust into it by life circumstance, and I had to learn from the ground. So whatever I share many times in relation to my real estate journey is from the ground, right? So for many people that are listening, you're probably going to be in that situation where you're starting up a new business, you're at the beginning stages of it. So I can speak from that position. Um, when I first got into this business, I did what everybody does. I did the networking. I tried to find mentors. I talked to different people who had more experience. And in doing so, I realized something. Okay, let me give you an example. Once I went to a network meeting, and then I had just started, but I had a few properties. And I was talking to this lady. I know you all share what you're doing so that you can see. It's all about who you can have relations with. And she said, "Oh, I have 80 units, like 80." And I was like, "Oh, okay." you know, um, Initially I felt sort of intimidated, like I'm just starting. Gosh, I mean, how the heck am I going to get to that point? But one thing that helped me in my real estate journey is a strong sense of self. I could walk into a place that had more experienced people and not let that affect me as a person. It could challenge me, but it wouldn't intimidate me as per um, now I can't even, I can't even, I pause or I stop or I have so many negative thoughts running. So she said that, and I kept on thinking, how are these people getting 1,000 units? And they're making, I mean, they're having like 80 units, 1,000 units in 2, 3 years. At least that's what they're saying. So I'm like, man, okay. Only for me to realize there's something called syndication. So syndication is someone, this is a company. They have 1,000 unit apartment complex, and they want to get investors to come in together. So you can come in with 10,000. You can come in with it depends on the floor. I mean, if the ground is 10,000, you can come in with 10,000. You get a few shares in that 1,000 apartment unit. You own it, but you get your little percentage ownership in this 10,000 units or 1,000 unit, and then based on the agreement, you can either have monthly dividends coming to you, or you wait, and then when they sell it after a few years, you make back a certain amount of percentage based on the increased value of the property. So many of these people that were saying 1,000 units, 80 units were in syndication. So I realized something in this business. I'm like, man, you got to be careful, because you can get a lot of stuff in you and you think you're a failure. Well, these people are simply, if they're 10,000 or they're 100,000, however much they're putting, they own maybe 2% of this thing. Okay, it's still ownership technically. You don't have to. So you realize something. People package things a lot. People package things in a way that people don't say everything. They package things, and by the time you listen to them and you're not aware of it, you think with you doing it yourself, you're doing your thing yourself. Bit by bit, you just think you can think you're a failure. You know. So I think this conversation I'm having right now is just an encouragement to allow yourself to go step by step by step. Look, if you're starting out a company, in my case, it's a real estate. Okay, it's okay to have one house and a second house. Okay, breathe. A third house. Okay, breathe. Season up those 3 houses. Make sure you're good at it. Add a fourth house slowly. You actually have more ownership, equity value than that person that had that 1,000 units, 10,000 they put in, or however they put in. Okay, so Long term, you are actually better off. Another thing I realized in this business is mentoring. You be aware if you are in the year one of your business and you're talking to someone who has been in the business for 10 years, please understand that it took them 10 years to get there. 10 years. And in that 10 years, they made a lot of mistakes that they had to make. They did a lot of trial and errors. They had to walk through hurdles. They had to. There's no way to. And let me give you an example. They had to go through a bad contractor. They had to get a bad piece of property that they thought they could make maybe 50% profit, but now they made 10%. They had to have a property that was a loss. Maybe they underestimated the repairs. Now, many times they don't share that with you. Okay? If you come to them, they might tell you, oh, don't do this, don't do that. And then okay, I shouldn't do this. And then if you made a mistake, if the mentor isn't very good with you, they can actually make you feel like crap. But in reality, they made that mistake in their year 2, year 3, year 4. You're meeting them at year 10. So take things in stride when you're learning. Make sure you get with a mentor who will work with you at the stage you're in. I'm gonna give you an example. When I had a guy that I thought was a mentor, and I almost made a mistake in a rental. My agent and I had put in a tenant in there that was fraudulent. She used a fraudulent social security number. And and she gave us an address in her rental history that did not exist. We accepted it. We accepted it, but something was off, but we did accept because everything else just seemed okay. I mean, she paid her deposit, she paid her first month rent, was perfect. But then my agent was like, let me actually drive to this location that she said she rented from. And guess what? Nobody knew her. So we realized, wow, she's not who she says she is. So we now had to go through the process, and it was thank goodness it was not chaotic. We went through a process of having to call the police. I had to call the police. They had to talk to them and just and they left. They left in 2 days. So I told this guy that I thought was like a mentor, and he went off on me. How dare you make this mistake? Maybe you shouldn't do this business. Maybe this business is not for you. Maybe. I'm like, who the heck do you think you're talking to? That's where my confidence comes. I'm like, no, you don't talk like that to me. And I'm not going to leave this business. I'm not going to leave it. But you know what? He's made that mistake too. He's had renters that didn't do great, that maybe tore up his place. See, people don't tell you these things, I've also had other people that have said, okay, I'm listening to their advice. Like there was a time I'm trying to figure out how to work with, I'm in a male-dominated industry. I'm trying to figure out how to work with my vendors, my trades, and I'm learning. So I wasn't really getting it right. Why wasn't I connecting? So I was trying to get advice from this person, and this person made me feel like, how dare you have these problems? And why did you say this? Why didn't you say this? Why? It's like everything I would tell him I said to resolve the issue, he would have a problem with it. I'm like, man. So, passage of time went on, and then he now discussed with me some problems he also had with his vendors, okay? And he told me his responses to them, and it was just what I had said. And I'm like, why was it different when I said it? Right? I mean, he always brought in this sexist thing. I don't even think he knew what sexist, but he always brought, treat them like a mother, bring food to the site. What the hell? I'm not your mother. Things that he wouldn't tell, I will be honest, he wouldn't tell a male. And I had to recognize that. I recognize that because I have enough, I'm glad I got into this business older. I have enough self-awareness of life to read and hear through his points. I could hear the bias. I don't even think he knew he had it, but I could hear it. This is not conflict resolution. This is looking at me as a female. Can you imagine bringing food and babying your trades? At what point is this disrespect? What point do the lines keep on being drawn to your disrespected? And no, it's a business. I'm paying you, do your work. I'm kind to you, but hey, do your work, right? I was not getting that advice. So I realize as I'm walking through this thing that there has to be a journey that is me. What saves me is defining my goals from day one. Okay, this is what I'm not living. I'm in this industry to learn. So learning means I will have to have trial and errors. I will have to do this and do that. I may have to make some mistakes. I may have to learn. I have to give myself, there's a learning curve. I have to give myself room for that. So that if somebody now comes and says, you don't need to be in here, I can say, no, I'm going to be in here. I'm not leaving. If someone says, okay, you got to baby them, I'm like, nah, I'm grown up. I know that's not how to drill. I've dealt with men. This is not my first rodeo. I know that's not what I'm supposed to do. Okay? So define your goals and understand that this thing takes time. So I guess what I realize as I'm walking this new path is take advice from people, but understand where you are so that you're not crushed as you start meeting people that are far ahead than you are, because they are. Someone that has been doing it for 15 years, don't let them talk down to you because you're in year one. Okay? Also know what your objectives are. If your objective is to just get, let's say real estate, get a house and throw someone in there, you don't need to learn anything. You can just find a realtor, get a house, you get it at good cost. You calculate, okay, if I put a renter in there, am I going to get a profit after I paid off all my costs? Okay, I make $500, whatever dollars a month, I'm fine. I don't need to learn. This is not my thing. But if you're in this thing to learn, if you're in this thing to master the crafts, okay, then protect that. Don't let someone come in and tell you, oh, you can't do it. Now, maybe that money you wanted to spend, give it to me and I will invest it, and then you can make your money and you can move on. And it's so tempting because that's not necessarily bad. Or someone say, okay, go and put it in a RIF, go put it in syndication, go put it in there and just make your money every month. And that's fine. If that's how you want to go into the business, you're not trying to be active in it, you're not trying to learn, you're not trying to make it a career, that's what you should do. That's what you can do. You don't have to see your property. You can just give it to somebody and they'll go run it in their multiple units, and then in the end they send you every quarter something or every month something, depending on the arrangement. You can do that. Or if you want to be in this as a career, then you have to learn. You got to learn. And you got to let your mentors and the people and the places you're part of, the network meetings, you have to go there knowing that you're going there to learn. And your mentors have to protect that space you're in. If they don't do that, change mentors. So be kind to yourself. Know that business when you're starting is going to take a while. I mean, we're in a generation where everybody tells you, I can help you make $1 million in 1 year. Follow my course. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say that in 1 year, you're going to learn a lot. In 1 year, you're going to grow significantly. But honestly, it takes 3 years for you to break through a certain point in your business and not fail and continue. Majority of businesses fail in the first 3 years. So in the first 3 years, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to grow. You're going to understand yourself more. You're going to understand what part of the business you even want to be in. Because in like, let's say real estate, you have people that are doing short-term rental. You have people that are doing long-term rent. You have people that are doing student housing. You have people that are doing vacation rental before. You have people in different places. You have people that are doing commercial. They're just renting offices. You have, you have different places. How do you know what you want to do? You might go into fixing and flipping and you hate it. You don't like being with having a long-term renter because you don't want them to call you and say the toilet's, whatever people say, the toilet, I don't know how many people are coming for the toilet, I haven't, but the toilet's broken. So you don't want to deal with that. You might go into vacation rental and find you don't like to deal with clients every weekend, every week. You don't like all that. So you're going to find where you fit. You might find that you're great, you love to flip, you love to, build, move on, build, move on. So you're going to find where you fit in the real estate journey. That's all going to happen your first 3 years. You're going to find that maybe you do well with one contractor and you don't do well with the other contractor. Maybe this guy, he started out well with you. I mean, I've had that happen. People start out pretty well with me, and then later on they feel, okay, now she trusts me, and so let me put $500, $500 more on this thing, and I'm like, okay, well, we gotta go different directions because it's not gonna work. So as time goes, you're gonna find that person that trusts you, and they work well with you. Their quality is good. How are you gonna do that in the first 6 months? It's not gonna happen. Unless you're really, I don't like using the word lucky, but you've really positioned yourself, I guess you're lucky, right? Maybe the first contractor you met, they were so kind, they saw you didn't know anything, but they really, really, because they have a good heart, they did everything right by you. But what I've seen is that it's like going to a mechanic as a female, right? You get that contractor, they gauge what you know, they know you don't know a lot, and very few will not take advantage of that. They will. I have been in a situation where this guy was framing a closet in front of me, framing rubbish. I mean, it wasn't even good. He didn't have double plates, nothing was working, and I didn't know. And we were having a wonderful conversation. This was my second house. Having a wonderful conversation, Only for me to realize later that he wasn't even framing it right when the city now came to look at it. I mean, I fired him, but it's like you have people who take advantage of you. Lack of knowledge. So you're gonna learn all that in your first 2 to 3 years. If you want to learn it, if you don't want to learn it, then it's going to be just have your money, find a general contractor. They'll tell you this to fix up this house is $60,000. Give them the money. They'll fix it up. You go sit down. You get reports. All report is I finished this. You gotta look at it. Oh, it's nice, and you leave, and then you throw a renter in there. You can get a property manager. They'll take care of everything. You make your $300, whatever you're gonna make. Maybe your rental, put in your pocket and move on. You can do that if that's not your But if you're going to learn this and be in it and master it and know how to communicate and know the nuances and the designs and know how to talk about to the architects and all that stuff, it's going to be a process. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And the person that you're talking to who's been in it for 10, 15 years has gone through that process. Remember that. They have gone through that process. They will help you. They can help you avoid some of it. But I want to tell you something too about mentorship. See, apart from you throwing your $25,000, however much they're charging you, you're going to meet people that will tell you, I'm there with you. Hey, look, just start it. And when you start it, because you didn't go through this time frame and the steps I'm telling you, they're not going to be there on site. Maybe they'll come the first time and tell you, okay, that's not right. Then they'll tell you I'm busy. Then you're stuck. It's happened to me. You're stuck. So now you're going to make the mistakes. And then when finally the mistake is glaring, they'll come and say, you should have not done that. So you have to pace yourself in life. You got to let the steps work themselves. You got to learn. You got to make mistakes. You got to grow. I guarantee you, if you don't quit when you start something, and if your mind is to learn and you don't quit and you're consistent, you will grow. You might not grow at the pace that someone is expecting you to, but I always want to tell you something. This is what I do with myself. If I'm somewhere better the next day than I was before, I pat myself on the back. That's enough for that day. If I'm selling a product, for example, and today I sold 2 of those products, while yesterday I didn't sell any, that's a pat on the back. Now you go and look at someone who sold 10 and you feel bad about yourself. No, be inspired. One day you will sell 10 of those products. But for today, you've sold 2. What made you sell those 2? What could you have done better to sell 5 or 3? And you implement that the next day, right? So what I'm trying to say is that as you're going step by step, you're going to learn how to get better. But part of that will be being kind to yourself and not letting the pressure from the people you see, from this culture of you must get it now, quick, affects the process, step by step by step. Well, that's just wanted to just share some of these things with you. These are things that I have I've learned as I've started in this space is develop yourself. And next time I'll talk about that. I'm going to talk about the mental side of things before you even start, or while you're walking through this. How you have to think to protect yourself, because it's a dog eat dog out world out there, and the person even sitting across you wants something from you. Trust me, in business, the person beside you or in front of you wants something you have, and you want something they have. So how do you make sure it's a win-win for everybody, but you're not taken advantage of, right? So you have to develop something here. So I'm going to talk about, those are some things I'm going to talk about when it comes to business. All right, so